Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our fourth installment in our statewide workforce strategy webinar series. And we've got an action-packed day today. Four fabulous speakers that we're going to hear from. Joining me today, as always, Robert Allen, President and CEO at the Texas Development Corporation. He'll be doing co-hosting duties with me today. If you've seen our first three webinars, you know we pack a lot into this hour and a half that we'll be on here today, and I can't thank you enough for spending some of your time with us this morning. Our panel today will be four different speakers, four individual addresses. They're going to talk to us about some things that are going on in some of our high schools and communities out across the state that I think you're going to find particularly interesting. You know, we've heard from universities, community colleges, some trade and technical schools. And what we're going to talk about today is when we really start working with high schoolers and helping them make that transition from school into the workforce, but using education to do it. I'm talking about things like our TxEDC programs. I'm talking about college and career readiness. I'm talking about early college high schools, and I'm talking certainly about apprenticeship programs across the state. These types of programs that really help us create an earn while you learn model, or speeding up that process to get students that credentialing they need to get right into the workforce. These programs are transformative, not just for individuals and families, but for communities across the state. Our TxEDC, early college, high school, and apprenticeship programs, they only really work, though, when we see industry collaboration. And I think that's a theme that you're going to hear in today's program. That industry collaboration, businesses and others, employers who get involved, and the community involvement that kind of backs that up really leads to some successful programs. I'm really excited about how all of today's speakers have been facilitating these programs and helping us develop future leaders for the state of Texas. Really. And so, you know what? Let's jump right in. I want to introduce our first speaker today. You're going to meet Jennifer Chadwick. Jennifer began working in her current role. She's the Assistant Director of Counseling and College Career and Military Readiness for the Fort Bend ISD. She picked up this job in 2020, but she's been with the district since the year 2000. She started there as a teacher, and then in 2017 transitioned to working as a high school programs coordinator over two of Fort Bend ISD's academies, the International Business and Marketing Academy and the Global Studies Academy. In 2018, she took on the role as early college, high school, and pathways and technology coordinator for the entire district, as the Fort Bend ISD launched 3 new campuses. Jennifer received her bachelor's degree from Texas A&M University in 1999 and a Master of Liberal Arts from Houston Baptist University in 2009. And we're delighted to have her with us today. Jennifer, take it away.
Hi, thank you, Commissioner Daniels. And thank you for having me here today. This is a great opportunity for us to be able to share what we're doing for our kids in Fort Bend ISD down here in, by Houston and Sugar Land, Texas. So in Fort Bend ISD, we realize that we want to inspire our kids to be able to imagine possibilities once they get out of high school and in high school. And we realize that part of that is through their careers. And so what we've done in Fort Bend is we've established a very rigorous program, not only in our pathways and technologies in our early high schools. We have a brand new CTE center for our kids for culinary arts and welding and a whole bunch of different things. So we want to make sure that once they start 9th grade, they know they have these opportunities in front of them to go forward and be these amazing individuals in their career choices. So really, we start in middle school. We start introducing our students to the different career paths and possibilities. We work with Texas Workforce Commission in Workforce Solutions to show our students what is possible and the paths that they take. And so when they enter high school, we have these different programs for pathways and technologies. We have 2 currently. We have a computer programming pathways and technology at Willow Ridge High School, and we have a pathways and technology for health science, which focuses on histology and health informatics at Hightower High School. And so through these 2 programs, we are able to get our students an associate degree before they even graduate high school. We also are able to get them their level 1 and 2 certifications for histology and health informatics, and their certifications within computer programming, so that when they graduate from high school, they will be able to go straight into the workforce or they're able to go into college afterwards as well. And we are able to accomplish this with our partnership with HCC, but also our partnership with different businesses around Fort Bend. So we are able to get them internships, job shadowing. Genesis Works is a partner of ours that is helping us find all of these internships. We have over 300 students right now currently in those programs seeking internships to be able to go out to job shadow. Many are paid internships that they'll be going into. So they're able to start at an early age into getting these experiences. They job shadow after their sophomore year. And once they get into their junior year, they actually go into internships that get them college credit. And so we're working with them to establish those aspects within those programs. We also have our early college high school, so students that want to do science or they want to go into the humanities have that opportunity as well to go forward. In our high schools in general, we do offer our CTE courses that do get our students these opportunities to see what it's like in the business. We have practicums, we have entrepreneurship. We have in our academies, they do internships in the summer. Some are with studying, for instance, with different researchers at Rice, or they might go out into a business and work and job shadow at a local restaurant or at a local doctor's office or at a local, entrepreneur's office. Even some that go and work with our county judge as they go through. So we're aiming to make sure that our kids have all of these opportunities to leave high school with the experiences in the job force, but in workforce, but then also these experiences with industry, because we know that those are important aspects for us as we kind of go through it. We want to support a competitive advantage for college and job applications through real world experiences. We want to make sure we're aligning to industry certifications and knowledge for success beyond high school. So it's really a partnership, not only within our district, but within all of the businesses that surround us. The local hospitals, for instance, are a great source for us as we go through. We just recently started a piano technician program as well at our early college high school. So the kids actually, by the time they graduate, have that piano tech certification and can on weekends go out and tune pianos, all of those great stuff. We have partnerships with community partnerships that have donated pianos for us to be able to use for the kids. So that in itself is a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to support our students in that. And it's a very interesting program. I unfortunately, because of COVID, have not been able to get into one of the classrooms to see the kids. But from what the teachers have told us and the campuses told us, that it's a fascinating program because they have to have an ear for music in order to be able to tune that piano as we go through. And then recently with House Bill 3 and with the Perkins grant, we're having to align all of our courses to make sure they're following the new CTE pathways, which really do align with industry certification. So that is one thing we want to make sure we're offering to every single student in the district that chooses to pursue a degree or a pathway in technology in the workforce. I mentioned our James Reese Center, which is our CTE center, which is set up state of the art. We just opened 2 years ago now. We're in our second year at Reese. And we have a state of the art culinary area for students to get certifications. We have welding areas so that they can be certified with welding. We're getting started with firefighting, obviously cosmetology, computer networking is also there. So just the opportunities we're applying for our kids really go through to make sure that they are able to pursue those dreams that they have. Another big area is working with workforce solutions. At every campus, we have college and career readiness advisors. And starting in the 9th grade year, they're working with our kids to make sure that they have all the opportunities. So we're able to offer college and career fairs. We had 2 career fairs. We had one last night and we had one last week with Texas Workforce Solutions to be able to get those kids to understand their opportunities that they have out there. So summer jobs, if they want to kind of go into those, or their careers, what do they need to do? And they're helping students realize where we have the biggest need in Texas for jobs, and helping them guide them as they go through to see where can I fulfill that job. Because let's face it, we have jobs coming up that nobody's even thought of, right? In the next 10, 20 years, there's going to be jobs out there that no one even knows of and that have even dreamed of. And COVID especially has gifted us with that aspect of new areas for those jobs to go into. And so we want to make sure that every aspect of our kids' education in Fort Bend has the possibility for them to see that and see the potential that they offer when they're kind of going through that area. We also, are working with not only HCC, but U of H to create different pathways and different ideas. We meet with them to do seminars on the different things that students can study and go forward into. Because while we do have the workforce that we have a lot of kids that want to go into, they also want to pursue those aspects in college to go further as well. So we are aiming for that as we go through. And to talk a little bit more about our PTECs, when we look at that, those are kids that typically are first generation college students, right? Or they are students that are low socioeconomic, at-risk students. And so we want to make sure that they know they have the support from the district to be able to go out and to do these things. We have, with their feeder pattern high schools, created programs that help the students see what it is they want to do. We've started to establish career and college fairs in elementary and middle school, so that we're making sure we're hitting the whole child and that whole student. We have community events for parents as well, because that's what's important. We have to involve our whole community in all of this to see what it is that we can do to support them and how they can support their child as we go through and do all of this. So that's really what we kind of have going on in Fort Bend. Outside of our PTEC programs, we have a math and science academy. We have an engineering academy, we have a business academy, a digital media, and through all of those academies, our students are able to, like I had mentioned before, job shadow. They're able to do internships. They're able to get industry experts to come in and talk to them and see, they go down and do different experiences. The favorite one they did last year was being able to visit, or 2 years ago, be able to visit an oil rig, to be able to see the different job opportunities on an oil rig and to see what those things offer. So really, that's what's important to us, is making sure they have those experiences to be able to go out and see what it is and how they're going to be able to get there. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time that you guys have given me to kind of talk about what we do here in Fort Bend ISD.
Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us, for sharing those comments, and really being on the front line of making sure that students are getting real world experience. I want to highlight one thing that Jennifer said. I thought it was really poignant, and I believe you said, we want to support a competitive advantage to career or college through real world experiences. And I think that was something that really stood out in Jennifer's comments, real world hands-on experience. Talk about the piano tech program that you've introduced, and the ability for students to really get, again, hands-on experience to start helping them identify pathways, whether that's, career, college, whatever the case may be, to be successful as they move through, their early careers. So Jennifer, thanks again. I now have the pleasure to introduce a former board member of ours and a longtime friend of TxEDC and the state of Texas. Alex Mead, a well-known and respected professional with more than 15 years of experience working at the local, state, and federal levels, is Senior Vice President of Economic Development and Public Finance at Texas Regional Bank. Alex is responsible for managing TRB's public policy strategy and leads efforts to identify and develop public sector opportunities in the various TRB markets throughout the state of Texas. Alex is a Brownsville native, was appointed by Governor Abbott to the Texas State Technical College System Board of Regents, and was previously appointed by Governor Abbott to our board at the Texas Economic Development Corporation. He was previously appointed by Governor Rick Perry to the Texas State Affordable Housing Corporation, the Cancer Prevention and Research Institute of Texas, the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners, and the Governor's Advisory Board of Economic Development Stakeholders. So he has served in a number of roles, and as you can see, he is highly sought after for his expertise. Alex is an alum of the Texas Lyceum. Alex received his BBA in economics from St. Edward's University in Austin, his MBA from UT Brownsville, and an MPA from UT Pan American. He is certified as an economic development finance professional by the National Development Council and as a certified public manager by the National Certified Public Manager Consortium. Alex, so great to see you again. Thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Robert, thank you so much. And Chairman Daniel, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to talk to you all about something that I've been, something I'm very passionate about, something that now that I'm in banking, I kind of miss a little bit, which is being involved at the community level. But I can tell you that workforce development is something that I'm very passionate about. Economic development is something I'm very passionate about. And as Robert read my bio, well, one, it reminded me I need to start using a shorter bio, and then two, as you can see, I'm not an educator, but it is something that I did while I was in economic development. I had to become very, very involved in education, and really it allowed me to ask questions that I would get from teachers, from principals, from superintendents that maybe they couldn't ask because of the positions that they held. And so I got to do things that maybe would help support a lot of the folks in the educational field. And I can tell you this story that kind of led me to approach economic development in a way that really forever changed how I looked at economic development. And I was recruiting a company back in about 2014, 2015, a manufacturing company out of Michigan. They were looking at us, they were looking at Alabama. And as we were finalizing our incentive package, we had come down to the numbers as far as what it was going to take this company to get them in Texas. And the CEO of the company asked me a question that really just changed my approach. And then as we start talking about his workforce and the needs that he's going to have, he was going to employ about 400 people in the community, but he was going to start off with about 100. And so he tells me, Alex, what are you going to do about my bench? He says, I'm going to start off with 100. What are you going to do with the remaining 300 that I'm going to need in about a year? And I said, I'm going to set up a meeting with the superintendent, the community college, and the college. And he says, Alex, you're not listening to my question. He says, what are you going to do about my bench? And he says, technically, you're not doing anything other than setting up meetings. And he was right. As an economic development corporation, we are that middle person, right? We help connect people. And that direct question got me to start thinking about how I can get involved in the educational process. And so we started talking to the community. He needed people with a technical background. And so, of course, at the time, coding was a big initiative that the country was taking. And we felt that was a great and a unique way to get involved and start working with school districts. And so we started talking about coding because he was going to have a lot of manufacturing equipment, a lot of which was robotics that did require coding in utilizing those machines. And so we began to get involved, and we came up with a program called Code the Town. We wanted to code the entire town. We literally wanted to teach coding to the entire town. And so we got involved with the K through 6 at the beginning. We felt that we needed to start there. And the reason why we wanted to start there is because the plant manager who had moved to the Rio Grande Valley 10 years prior, when I spoke to him, I told him, I said, look, I'm going to get involved, at the K through 6 level, but I don't see how that's going to help you. And he says, Alex, when I came to the Rio Grande Valley, we had a need of folks with a technical trade. That was 10 years ago. The need is still there 10 years later, because nobody started focusing on the K through 6, 6 through 12. And he says, somebody's got to do it at one point and really focus on that. And so we started teaching the kids how to code, and we got excited. We ended up even actually getting recognized by the White House. We were considered a bright spot in Hispanic education. We impacted about 3,000 students. But then we realized that we were setting them up to fail, because as they started moving from K through 6 and through junior high, we realized that the teachers and the school didn't have the tools that they needed to continue this education. And so we started to look at other models that we could possibly get involved in. And one of the things that I started looking at as we moved from junior high to high school is that, and this is something that I thought was a need for us, was that the way computer science, for example, was being looked at the high school level, is that it was considered an elective. Now you can take it as an AP course, and you can get credit for that, but not as it wasn't a credit course. It was basically treated like Spanish. So, and I started to reflect when I was in high school. Well, when I was in high school, I wasn't doing that great. I was just focusing on graduating high school, not even focusing on college, just focusing on graduating high school. And my parents are from Mexico, so I took Spanish because that was the easiest class that I knew I could pass that and I can graduate. Now, I started thinking about those students who are left with the idea of having to choose a hard elective like computer science or an easy elective like Spanish, at least in the Rio Grande Valley. And so I thought, okay, when a manufacturing company comes to a city, they don't hire 100 engineers with bachelor's degrees. They hire one engineer who manages 100 technicians. And so the folks in the valley needed to have that technical trade if I wanted to recruit companies that paid higher wages. And so we decided to look into this and how we can change the educational system, be it how computer science can be given credit to. And through the help of State Representative Bobby Guerra, we introduced House Bill 728 back in 2017. And it ended up actually getting signed by the governor. And so if you, starting in 2019, a high school student could take their computer science class and get credit for the third math or the third science or their fourth math or their fourth science. So, we realize that although, the kids that want to go to college and have a desire to go to college, they're going to take the AP class, because they have that support. Those kids that are going to end up staying in the community that really don't want to go to college, I needed to make sure they had a technical background, and I needed to do everything I could possibly do to make sure that they could take that class, that computer science class or that technical class, and give them that high school credit that they needed to graduate, because those were the folks that the companies I was recruiting was going to hire. And so we were successful in passing that, but it just really led me to believe that that throughout the years, as we recruited companies, we did such a good job about telling kids that they had to go to college, right? Otherwise, the difference was they were going to end up flipping burgers. And we would say that, at least I would say, why did we have to be so extreme in saying that, if you don't go to college, you're going to end up flipping burgers, when you can say, you can be an electrician, you could be a plumber, you can be some kind of a welder. Those jobs right now are so sought after, and they pay more than what I make at a bank, And so these are the trades that we need to be pushing, and being involved in economic development, getting that question, brought to my attention, really led me to approach economic development in a whole new different way, that from that point moving forward, I just got so involved in the educational system that it really, it at the beginning, other economic development folks kind of, would poke at me, as to why I'm, I should stay in my lane, not get into the educational field. But I just felt like these two things go hand in hand. And I'm glad that Workforce Commission, which played a huge role in helping us come up with these programs, sees that, because to align education and industry, if we want to be competitive in the state of Texas, those two things have to be aligned moving forward. And I think, Chairman Daniel and Robert, I think you guys see this as well, as you guys recruit companies, that the state of Texas has done a really good job, but we need to make sure that we continue doing that in order to continue to remain competitive. But that's my 2 cents in my 10-minute conversation here.
Alex, thank you so much. Your experiences, when added together, just really provide all of us great insight into what goes on when companies are looking at Texas as a place to either create new jobs or really to retain the jobs they have. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you making some time for us today to bring a very important perspective to us. We do a lot of work in economic development in this state, and it's really nice to hear that someone who's just a professional in that field and now the business community through your work at the bank, how much you've brought education into that and really made those types of introductions and gotten involved yourself. Alex, thank you so much for this day and for your contributions to the state of Texas.
Thank you.
Heard from Southeast Texas, that was Jennifer. We've heard from South Texas, that's Alex. Let's move out to West Texas. This will be Northwest Texas, right at the bottom of the Cap Rock. We're going to hear from a speaker that I think is going to show you that this innovation it's not bound by geography, and it fits in wherever you have students that are willing to put in the work. So we're going to hear from Andy Wilson next. He just completed his first year as superintendent at the Roscoe Collegiate ISD. That's Roscoe, Texas Collegiate ISD. But he's worked in Roscoe for nearly 13 years as an elementary principal and an assistant superintendent there in the district. Andy's passionate about school transformation, college access for all students, the defeat of generational poverty, and the economic prosperity that both Texas and the United States have to offer. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree and a Master of Education degree from Abilene Christian University, and is a dissertation away from completing his Doctorate of Education from Texas A&M and Texas Tech Universities. And he's been married to Rhonda for 29 years. They have 4 sons and a daughter. His professional purpose is to help as many people as possible be as successful as they can possibly be. Andy, thanks so much for joining us. Very forward to hearing what you have to say to us here today.
Thank you, Chairman Daniel. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I'm going to share my screen and get a PowerPoint up. It's always an honor to be able to tell people about the Roscoe Collegiate ISD and the work that we're a part of and the transition that we've been through over the last 10, 11, 12 years. Our mission in Roscoe, the reason we exist really is to break the generational poverty cycle, to help students break the generational poverty cycle through meaningful pathways in higher education. The statistics on, well, let me see if I can get my screen to change here. All right. The statistics on the screen that you see before you, you're probably familiar with. This is that 8th grade cohort from 2009, who by the time they graduated high school, there were only 79% of them left in school that graduated. Only 53% of them enrolled in a Texas college, and then only 23% of them ended up with any kind of post-secondary degree. That number drops to 17% for rural post-secondary degrees for that cohort. That's $111 billion of loss in lifetime learnings or lifetime earnings. If Texas residents aren't prepared for the occupations that we need residents to be a part of for our economy, those jobs will be in other states and industry will go to other states. And so we really feel the burden in Roscoe to help our students be prepared for the future. You're probably also familiar with the Texas 60 by 30 plan. I don't know if you know all of those goals. You probably know the first one. They really align well to what we're doing. I'm going to mention those. By 2030, at least 60% of Texans ages 25 to 34 will have a certificate or degree. That's the first goal. That's 60 by 30. By 2030, at least 550,000 students in that year will complete a certificate, associate's, bachelor's, or master's from an institution of higher education in Texas. By 2030, all graduates from Texas public institutions of higher education will have completed programs with identified marketable skills. And by 2030, undergraduate student loan debt will not exceed 60% of the first year's wages for graduates of Texas public institutions. Now, if you didn't know better, you'd think the lion's share of the responsibility is on institutions of higher learning, but if K-12 doesn't do more to prepare students for higher education, institutions of higher learning will not be able to accomplish these goals. So along with that, if workforce doesn't do more to find ways to let students intern and apprentice, our children will likely not be exposed to high demand and high wage occupations that we need them in. In Roscoe, we believe that it is vital that we partner with higher ed and workforce in order for our students to be successful. So we began our transition in 2009. We became an early college high school. And along with that, we formed a better partnership with Western Texas College and TxEDC in Sweetwater, Western Texas College in Snyder. And then we also had our first MOUs with Texas A&M, ASU, and Texas Tech. And becoming an early college high school allowed our students to have early access to college classes. And as a result, between 2011, really between 2010 and 2021, we had 203, if you'll count that first associate's degree earner. 203 of our students have graduated with their associate's degree at the same time that they graduated from high school. So we really feel like we're putting them on a better path. They're a whole lot more likely to be able to be in a high need and high occupation career path, having earned that associate's degree. But we've grown along the way as well, and added and changed some things. In 2012, we became a STEM academy. This was where we added some relevance to our rigor. We at that time had 2 pathways, an engineering and a biomedical pathway, and those were aligned with industry-based certifications such as a certified veterinary assistant. We're working right now on an in vitro fertilization certification. We have recently built an in vitro fertilization lab. I'll talk more about that here in a minute. And on the engineering side, we had a remote pilot's license, and then so for flying drones, Autodesk Inventor, AWS Welding, MakerBot, and then we have a business pathway across that. That was when we were a STEM academy and early college high school blended model. We've transitioned from that as well. I do want to mention our student research. This is really kind of unique to what we do here in Roscoe. All of our students school-wide are 4-H students. Students in 3rd through 7th grade, all students from 3rd through 12th grade do a research project every year, but 3rd through 7th grade, those projects are closely tied to the TxEDC. That's our state curriculum. And then we work with Extension, an Extension program specialist, to tie that to agricultural needs of Nolan County, so very specific to us. And then 8th through 10th grade, they also do group projects, but those are tied to their pathways, their career pathways. And then 11th and 12th grade students, they work on their senior capstone project. They start that as 11th graders. They do literature review and work up a poster over what they've learned in their literature review and present that as a proposal. And then they spend their senior year on the investigation, the paper, the poster, and present that to a larger body of folks. All of these presentations are done to a panel of judges from 3rd grade to 12th. And that panel of judges they will fire back questions. They have to defend their work. And it's really a great opportunity for our kids to learn public speaking, research, defensive research. And we really believe that students who've had, 9 years of research training and at K through 12, they're going to be less likely to be afraid of research, either at the college level or on their job, depending on where they are. Just a glance of some of our kids doing research there. In 2017, we began paid student apprenticeships. The Tri-Agency was talking about paid student apprenticeships at that time, and Commissioner Williams had mentioned this to our district. And so we decided to give it a try, and we've been doing that since 2017. Our juniors ideally will receive their IBC, an industry-based certification, and be able to use that their senior year. If not, they may still be working towards it, but still be able to be in a paid internship. It depends. They'll apply for that internship, they'll be interviewed, and the different business will either hire them or not. And if they're hired, if they're working, we got some school businesses I'll talk about the next slide, but if they're working in one of our school businesses, we pay them $5 an hour for work during school hours, or $10 an hour outside of work. Students who aren't in a paid student apprenticeship or in a practicum experience, so they're still getting work-based learning opportunities. One of the dilemmas with rural is we don't have all of the industry that an urban area might have for us to be able to plug our kids into internship, apprenticeship opportunities. And so we are only 8 miles from Sweetwater, and there's industry there, and we're working with them now and partnering with them, the Big Country Manufacturing Alliance specifically, working with them to get some of our students in their businesses. But in the beginning, we just started our own. The first was collegiate chiropractic. One of our former students came back as a chiropractor and opened a business in Abilene, about 50 miles away, and he comes here once a week to open a clinic here. Collegiate EduVet, that is we built a vet clinic. We can't own a vet clinic, but we built one, and if you build it, they will come, is what the saying is. And we waited 2 years, worked 2 years until we could finally find a veterinarian willing to take that risk. And now we've had an open small and large animal vet clinic for the last, I think we're on our 5th year. We've had EduDrone as a drone flight operations business, so they can go and fly drones for different jobs, but we also have a drone curriculum. And then EduMaker is a business that houses our EduWeld business and our EduMakeIt, which is a makerspace business. So we have these private nonprofit LLCs that whenever they become profitable, they can flow those funds back into paid student apprenticeships. So in 2018, we became Pathways in Technology, Early College High School, short, PTech for short. And that's kind of the blending of early college and STEM together. And we're able to keep kids, as Jennifer was mentioning, 2 years after they graduate to continue working on a degree or industry recognized certification, a post-secondary Cert 1 or Cert 2. All of those things are options for our kiddos when they graduate. We continue to get weighted CTE funding on those students as well, and we use that funding to pay for their tuition. And then all of those students are also in paid student internships, whether they're in our businesses here or in other businesses. So we've had them in both situations. So this program, PTech, it really reduces barriers to college access. It also provides economic support for students. They can graduate with that certification, associate's degree. And because so many of our students already graduate with a certification or an associate degree, we decided, why don't we try a bachelor's on this? And so any of our students who graduate with an associate's degree can stay on with us for 2 more years and work towards their bachelor's degree. And I have a slide in a minute that I'll talk more about that. So we have, they have to check in with us once a week. We have personnel, staff, specifically to work with them. So we track their academics, we give them academic social support. And then we work with them with their internships as well. Obviously the work-based learning, we're able to help them develop soft skills, employability skills, and we're hoping that they can go into the workforce with zero college debt. Part of our PTech pathways, Jennifer was mentioning her pathways, and we've got several here as well. And animal science, our biomedical really morphed into animal science when we became PTech. That's working out in the vet clinic. So our students right now can get a certified veterinary assistant credential, but we're working on that IVF credential as well. And hopefully that'll be in place in another year. The PTech or the pathway explanation 1-pagers there. If you're interested in seeing more of those, we have those on our school website that you can find. Just a look at those facilities, the vet clinic. We have 4 classrooms out there, the vet clinic research center as well, working hand in hand with industry professionals. There's a couple students working with our veterinarian, one of our veterinarians, and then working with our embryology technologist as well. And they're able to really put their hands, literally put their hands on or in, depending on the situation. And that just provides relevance, it provides practice, it provides real life opportunities to see if this is the career pathway they want to be on, if they want to stay on, or if it sparks interest somewhere else. And if it is where they want to be, they can go deep into it. Business management that pathway goes across all of our businesses. And so we're really working we want all of our students really to have this IBC because it's attainable and they can do it across the different businesses. A look at collegiate chiropractic. One of the earlier slides I forgot to mention, we went from P12 to really we're P20. We're a P20 system model for student success. We want to support students all the way to terminal degree. And our first student to come through our program and get their terminal degree was Dr. Jose Rangel. That's not him in front of you. That's Dr. Nick Anthony. He owns the chiropractic clinic. But Jose Rangel, we really made a difference in his life, and Dr. Anthony here did as well. He worked with Dr. Anthony in the chiropractic clinic, and that's where he got his interest in physical therapy, ended up getting his doctorate in physical therapy, has come back to the area working in Sweetwater. And he's one that, his mom is one of our custodians, his dad is a farmhand. So this has really changed his life. He has escaped generational poverty. And that's really what we want to do. Digital communications is the pathway where our drones are housed in. It really makes sense to have the drone business there because primarily the missions we do are filming and photography. And so students also have access to certifications in film editing and different pathways within the digital communications. They are able to fly drones and go out and fly missions. They've done some agricultural crop mapping missions, but like I said, primarily it's video and photography. We do have the flight simulators that the younger students work on until they're old enough to be able to fly the actual drones. And then there's a look at our drone curriculum. We lost our community welder. He retired and moved away, and that left a void in our community. And so we felt like the district already owned the welding shop, not that welder had, but for years and years, the community welder had a welding shop downtown that when he passed away, we purchased it, and it was our bus barn for a while, and we outgrew it as a bus barn. And so we decided to move the welding shop for the community back to the old community welding shop and open a welding business there. And so we have students who they have repaired and rebuilt many trailers, all kinds of different projects that these kiddos do. Right now, they're building a 10 by 12 portable building to put out here by our district office for storage. So they're able to do really plan and execute and build relevant jobs. And then EduMaker, our advanced manufacturing and machinery and mechanics is our makerspace, and our students are able to work on CNC routers, CNC plasma cutter. We have 3D printers, embroidery machines, quite a bit of opportunity for kiddos there to do crafts. We do have an online presence for that business, and it does pretty well. So we're very excited about that. And then that brings us to working with the Big Country Manufacturing Alliance. We really do want to work to put kiddos in internships in businesses like Ludlam, Measurements, and USG, Georgia Pacific, Bootsy Unicem, those kind of industries that are close to us as well. And I agree with what Alex said earlier. That's pretty extreme to say it's college or hamburgers. And I think that we have a great opportunity to help kids escape generational poverty through post-secondary certifications as well as degrees. Our last one here is our renewable energy. This was new to us this year. We have our first student in that, and this is a great example of collaboration with higher education. We couldn't do this pathway without TxEDC partnering with us. And so we do the beginning part of that pathway, and then the student goes to TxEDC for the remainder. We've got looks like we have a direct path that if a kiddo wants to continue after the certification, get the applied associates, he can. There's an applied bachelor's degree for that as well through Texas Tech. And so this brings us back to where I was talking about that our kiddos who get associate's degrees having the access to a free bachelor's degree. And I think probably most of us on this call, if they went through a bachelor's program, would have appreciated a free bachelor's degree opportunity. But we're able to keep those kiddos. We worked with WTC, Western Texas College, and West Texas A&M to create a three-way MOU where our students stay in Western Texas College for another amount of their hours, and then all of that can transfer to West Texas A&M, and they can stay here, right here in Roscoe. A lot of times the barrier for kids of poverty of going to college is the fact that they can't afford to move away and live. So they can stay right here. We provide emotional support for them. We provide mentoring support. We provide academic support for them as well. And so if you'll remember back to those goals, I read those for a reason. Part of that, one of those goals was that kiddos will complete. And without support, what we've learned is the support is key to kids completing. And so we're about to graduate our first cohort out of that group here in May, but we've had 2 early graduates, and the young lady in that picture on that slide graduated in August with her bachelor's degree. So she was 10 months out of high school, graduated with her bachelor's degree, and went straight into a master's degree program. Because she's still connected to us and in the PTech program, we're continuing to get funding on her. So we just turned that funding right over for her tuition. So the first year of her master's degree has also been paid for. We also have a program where adults who have separated from us, or maybe never were a part of Roscoe at all, if they have some college or associate's degree or even none, there's an opportunity for them to come in, and we can support them with an affordable degree. We can't pay for that for them. We can't pay towards it, but we have some affordable options for them. And then, we've become a model. I won't stay long on this slide, and I'm almost done, but we've become a model for other schools. And as a model, our former superintendent, Dr. Kim Alexander, resigned a couple of years ago to form Collegiate Education, and that is a 501, nonprofit 501c3. And that is rural service providers simply to help other rural schools transform their programs as we have done in Roscoe. And so we're excited to be a part of that network as well. And you can see the schools there that are, and we have some more coming on board. And so my last slide, and I'll be done. We can't do we can't do innovative things. We couldn't have done what we've done here in Roscoe. Fort Bend couldn't have done what they've done. Innovative programs don't happen unless you learn how to kick the T out of can't. If you start thinking about why you can't get something done, it's just not going to happen. But we try to kick the T out of can't here in Roscoe, and try to get it done. And so once again, thank you very much for allowing me to present to you today.
Well, Andy, thank you very much. I don't know about anybody else, but I certainly feel extremely excited about the future of not only Roscoe ISD, but West Texas in general, with Andy and his team leading the way. A couple of things that he had in his presentation that I just want to highlight. You know, you made a comment that it's vital to partner with higher education and workforce to be successful. Absolutely the truth. And we talk about this a lot. Partnerships, communication, it's key. And really great comment. Multiple MOUs with other education institutions. You had that slide there towards the end that showed that student, her ability to go on and get in that master's program, having the first year paid for. Phenomenal real world example of what's possible. Everything from in vitro fertilization to flying drones. So again, you know, people talk about the state of Texas and why are we so successful? And I certainly believe as an economic developer that it's our workforce, and our talented workforce really is, I think, at the top of the list. And I think the diversity that you heard there from Andy, flying drones, in vitro fertilization, you know, alternative energy, everything in between, shows you that diversity in real life training. So phenomenal. And then finally, the welding story. Again, that's just forward thinking by leadership who's in a position to make a difference, to pay attention when there may be an opportunity for you to transition a facility there back into the welding shop because you had a longtime welder who decided to retire and maybe move on, and you saw an opportunity and you pounced on it. So thank you very much for that presentation. More importantly, thank you for what you and your team are doing and have been doing during the global pandemic. We were talking before we started and how impressed I am, and I know the rest of us are, with the leadership that we're seeing out of our education institutions with the difficulties that the pandemic has brought on. So once again, Andy, thank you very much. It's now my honor to move on to our next keynote speaker, Eric Perales serves as training director for the Syntex chapter of the Independent Electrical Contractors, bringing over 15 years of diverse HR, sales, and construction recruiting experience to the chapter. He is the chapter liaison between the Department of Labor and the Syntex IEC apprenticeship program. Eric began his career as an apprentice electrician in the residential construction industry, learning on the job under the supervision of a master electrician. Again, a real world example of what we're talking about today. He was involved in the electrical installation of several apartment complexes in his hometown of Lockhart, Texas. He then relocated to Austin, Texas, where he became a recruiter for certified communications, recruiting for the low voltage and electrical construction industry. Eric was a key factor of the Austin office's sales and business development success. In 2009, Eric was hired by the Syntex IEC as the training director, where he manages the apprenticeship program. He is responsible for supervising the recruitment, screening, and enrollment for all new apprenticeship students. With a current headcount of 535 students, Eric is in communication with all students in regards to their academics, attendance, and OJT hours, and certainly very busy with 535. His focus is to assist in the academic development of each apprentice on the path to becoming a state of Texas certified journeyman electrician. Eric is also involved with recruitment of new contractor members and is highly involved with the marketing and advertising of non-apprenticeship electrical courses. Eric is very involved in his community and focuses on assisting in workforce development. He sits on the advisory board for Career Life Ministries as the electrical industry representative. He assists with recruiting for pre-apprenticeship programs, working with local high schools, nonprofit community organizations, rehabilitation, and youth programs. Eric, thank you so much for being with us. And not only that, but for managing the next generation of apprenticeship students. Eric, the floor is yours.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Chairman Daniel, Mr. Allen. Thank you so much for allowing the IEC to be here today to talk about apprenticeship. And yes, we're very busy at the local apprenticeship program. I'm currently in Killeen, and speaking of workforce development, I'm headed to Belton High School right after this to go and acknowledge a Skills USA challenge that Belton High School students are performing today. So this is our Killeen location that I'm currently in. We are based out of Austin. We are the Syntex IEC. And as an electrical association, we have 130 electrical contractors that are part of the association. These contractors have all chosen to be part of the IEC association, primarily because they want to be able to access our Department of Labor certified apprenticeship program. And what apprenticeship training is, and we are a registered apprenticeship program through the DOL. What apprenticeship training is, it's an earn while you learn education model that allows my students to be able to work full-time during the day as electrical apprentices, acquiring on-the-job training, skills and knowledge, and then being able to take electrical courses, the technical side of their training in the evening at our location. We have 3 locations set up here in Central Texas. Our main campus is in Austin. We have our Killeen location where I'm currently at now, and then we have our Waco location. So about 75% of my headcount is located in Austin, with the rest of the headcount spread out through here, through Killeen and Waco. But what's exciting about apprenticeship is allowing these students to earn a living during the day. And most of our students are coming right out of high school. And as Jennifer and some of our other speakers have mentioned, we have these programs, what we call pre-apprenticeship programs, that are starting to pop up in some of our local high schools. And that is great to see. And we are partnering up with some of those high schools to provide assistance in regards to curriculum, in regards to lab materials, getting donations from our contractors to help build these high school pre-apprenticeship programs. We think it's important that the IEC is involved in that aspect so we can train sophomores, juniors, and even seniors, high school students, for those that are maybe wanting to get directly into the workforce right away that may not be college bound, but say, this is what I want to do. I would like to pick a trade as a career. And we allow those students to even seek out internships. I know that's kind of been a key word in some of these speakers today is internships and, pre-apprenticeship. So we are working with Austin ISD for a summer internship program that's actually kicking off in June. Our contractors are excited about that. And that's in conjunction with Bank of America to cover some of the wages. But apprenticeship is here, and it is alive and well. And our contractors are taking advantage of the training. Here in Central Texas, especially in Austin, we all know Austin's the kind of hot city that everybody wants to live in, and the surrounding towns are all seeing the growth as well, especially with some of the major manufacturers, Tesla, Samsung, Google, Facebook, regional headquarters coming in, and that Tesla project is huge. But the demand for skilled labor obviously is a hot topic. And we as an association are, reaching out to young high school students, young adults, in regards to their interest in becoming electricians. So once we recruit individuals to become electricians, it's really kind of a quick path. It's just a matter of getting an apprentice license from the TDLR, the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. And we have an application service that helps connect these young adults with our contractors. And our contractors do have immediate openings. They are hiring, entry-level apprentices. And we all know that they would prefer experience, but based on the demand, they are taking these young apprentices and being able to sponsor them into the apprenticeship program. So our apprenticeship model is fairly easy. Working full-time during the day, coming to school only one night a week. And this biggest student benefit, not only on the educational side, but our students graduate debt-free. So our students are not responsible for paying directly to the association for their education. Our apprenticeship program is actually sponsored by the contractors, and contractors will pay for registration. They will pay for the tuition, books, and any other fees associated with enrollment up front. And what most companies do, obviously, they want the student to be financially invested, is usually set up some type of payroll deduction. That way that student has some buy-in into their education. But on the flip side of that, a lot of these students actually receive that money that was deducted back at the end of the year based on their academic success. So we have contractors that have a program where if you score an A at the end of the school year, the money that was deducted will be given back to you as a bonus, as an academic incentive. So upon 4-year completion of our program, our students graduate debt-free. There's no student loan program. There's no financial aid center. Our contractors are the financial aid, department, for these students. But in apprenticeship, what we're teaching our students is the technical aspect of the trade. The contractor will be responsible providing them the on-the-job training, the hands-on knowledge, and then apprenticeship will tie into the technical aspect. So learning electrical theory, electricity, what is it? How does it work? Getting into the theory behind it, getting into the math, the science, formulas, calculations, voltage drop, transformers, breakers. So these students are learning all of those aspects over our 4-year curriculum. But our objective is to graduate our students and highly successful, academics to become state certified journeyman electricians. So here in the state of Texas, an apprentice must have a minimum of 7,000 hours to be able to sit for the state journeyman exam. And upon our completion, our students have that code knowledge. They have the theory behind their craft and their trade. So they're able to go to the state of Texas, qualify for that state journeyman exam, and sit for that exam confidently, knowing that they have the technical knowledge. And as of last year, our graduating class, we had 50% of our graduates, and we had a graduating class of 72. So we had about 35 students that graduated with a journeyman's license in their back pocket. And right now here in Central Texas, the average journeyman rate is about $28 an hour. So $56,000 a year coming out of a 4-year program with no debt and obviously earning a living, full time. Now, of course, most of our students don't just want to become a journeyman and are happy with that. Some do want to pursue a master electrician and eventually want to become, business owners. So many of my graduates are now operating, as contractors and receive or acquire their master's license through the state exam. And many of my students are now in members of management, whether it's estimating, project management, foremen, supervisors. These students, these graduates of mine are playing key roles in their contracting. If they're not their own company, than the contractor that they work for. But another key thing about our apprenticeship program is that upon completion, students can receive up to 40 hours of college credit towards an associate's or a bachelor. And that's through the ACE accreditation, which the National IEC went out and got back about 7 or 8 years ago. So some of our students do want to pursue a higher level of education. For those that want to pursue an electrical engineering degree or a degree in business management, those students have that option to pursue that upon completion of the program. So as it comes back to what's going on in Central Texas, we here at the IEC are very active. We've taken a proactive approach in working with the high schools, working with these local organizations, rehabilitation programs, and finding adults, young adults, middle-aged adults that say, you know what, I think it's time for a change. I've been working in this industry and I feel like I'm not going to be able to go anywhere, higher up in the company. So we've had individuals come to us and say, I'm going to get out of this field and I would like to learn a skill. I'd like to learn a trade. And I think they see that the demand for skilled labor is very high in Central Texas. And some of these individuals want, to get into the trade for that reason. So a lot great things going on here at the IEC. As an association, we're here to promote the electrical industry, help young adults on a pathway to become electricians. And with the demand in the current market, it's only going to get, obviously, we're going to have a stronger connection with our community. So with that said, we are very excited about the future, working with the high schools, working with all of the local organizations and rehabilitation programs to help these young adults. So I'd like to just thank all of our panel speakers today. Chairman Daniel, thank you so much for allowing us to be here representing the electrical industry. And we hope, obviously, we get to see more of these webinars in the near future.
Well, Eric, thank you. And you're going to get your wish. We do have more webinars coming up, which is a great plug. Thank you very much. Because it's a relevant topic. And, again, as a marketing organization responsible for marketing the state of Texas domestically and globally, we can't do what we do without these kinds of really impressive stories, conversations, plans. Alex, I thought, shared a really great real world story earlier in terms of the question he got from a project about what are you, Alex, doing to ensure that my bench is there and deep. And, it's a question that we get often is, okay, so Texas is great today and you have the workforce today, but what about tomorrow? What about 10 years? What about 20 years from now? And I tell people all the time, I was actually doing some research yesterday in terms of our workforce numbers. Our median average is considerably lower across the board from a lot of our competitor states. We also have almost across the board more public high school students enrolled today. We'll have more graduates coming out of higher education than most of our competing states. Our workforce numbers blow our competition out of the water. So I tell people all the time, yes, we can take care of you today. We can also take care of you tomorrow and well into the future. Eric, you said a couple of things, and I just want to highlight, apprenticeship is here. No question, it's here, and it's being, embraced and utilized, as we heard today from you and from the rest of our speakers. You mentioned the Tesla project. I think it's a great project to highlight. Just in my backyard here in Austin, Texas, I've seen the progress firsthand and continue to see the progress. That progress, by the way, wouldn't be possible without those former students now in the field, hands-on, moving that project along quickly. And, it's not just about landing a project like that. It's about landing it, but then also moving it into reality, production. The reality is, whether it's Tesla or anybody else, they want to begin producing and selling their product. And so the faster they can do that, obviously, the better off they are. And so it's really important for us in the state of Texas to remember, just because we land the project doesn't mean that's the end. In fact, that's the beginning. And then it's where all of our speakers today and their teams come into play and start delivering on a lot of those promises. And then finally, Eric, one of the things you said, your objective is to graduate our students. What a simple notion, but obviously incredibly respectful notion. And not just graduate them, but graduate them a lot of times, I heard, debt-free, and also with real world experience in their back pocket. Again, just really exciting stuff about what's going on out there in the space. We do try to save time for Q&A, and we have some time today for Q&A. Let me remind you, if you have a question that's popped into your mind, feel free to submit it to us in the chat function below. And if we have a few minutes, we'll get to it. I'm going to come to our first question to Jennifer. Jennifer, it's from Lee over at Texas 2036, and it's kind of a multi-pronged question, so bear with me. I'll read it all, and then we can work through it. Here's a question from Lee, Jennifer. What changes have you seen in students' CTE, otherwise known as career and technical education, concentration choices and completions by your enhanced efforts? And is it leading to significant shifts in numbers compared to, say, 5 years ago? And then finally, how much information is provided on pathways to living wages within, each job?
Those are great questions. I'm going to go question by question. The first one, the CTE concentration choices and the completion. We've been able to streamline our pathways, which has helped immensely. We've seen a 17% increase in students completing those concentration choices in the last 5 years, which is awesome. And really it's the last 4. There's always a lot of changes from the state level as far as CTE courses for the districts. So we do have to kind of fluctuate with that. We expect to see a massive change over the next 5 years with the new Perkins grant and with the new pathways that the state has come out with this last year. And then of course, also with our PTech campuses. But we've also been able to open up choices for our kids for CTE, which has helped give them more pathways to choose from. Like I mentioned earlier, the firefighter pathway that we have started over at our CTE Reese Center, and then our computer programming, which hopefully we can get as big as Mr. Wilson out there in Roscoe. His programs sound phenomenal. I want to go out there and visit to kind of see what is it that they're doing to get those kids in there. And so we do have those significant shifts. Our industry certification numbers have also risen, as we've gone through in the last several years, and they'll continue to rise because our goal is to make sure those kids have that opportunity. The information that we provide to the living wages within each job and family and for our careers is, when we promote our programs, in 8th grade, we visit every single middle school campus. We spend a day on every single middle school campus, and we have 15, soon to be 16 middle school campuses. And we make sure that when we're talking to the kids, they see this is, if you follow this pathway, here is your possible income when you graduate, right? So we want to make sure that they see that because, as Mr. Wilson said, getting those kids out of that poverty level, giving them the opportunity to go beyond what they currently have, or for some of our children, help their families, as they go forward with it. And then we have a community night where we meet with the parents and we do the same thing. We get the kids first so they can go home and tell the parents, and the parents come and they visit us as well. Our CTE program, when they promote not only in 8th grade, like I said, we start, in middle school earlier in 6th grade, but we don't stop when they get to high school. We, even in 9th grade, 10th grade, we still have these nights and these informations where they can see if this is what you're interested in, this is your possibility for when you graduate.
And we've had one success here because it looks like we're going to have a visit from Jennifer out to Andy out at Roscoe. So that's fantastic. Collaboration immediately here, thanks to this webinar. So Jennifer, thank you for that. Mr. Chairman, I think you have our next question.
I did. This question is for Alex. You talked about your role as an economic developer. You talked about some activity you did with educational entities, even I think through your work at the bank, and of course you're a region over at TxEDC here in Texas. My question for you, based on all those experiences, is what has been the best strategies to get and keep students interested and involved in the programs?
The one thing that we learned in getting kids and excited, obviously with kids right now, technology is everything. I mean, technology is everything to everybody, right? So we definitely used technology as a hook to get kids. And when I say technology, I was referring to the program that we did where we taught kids how to code, but teaching them and actually taking them to the manufacturing floor of that company that we ended up recruiting when it finally did open. Royal Technologies, it has 400 employees. They invested about $50 million, built a 400,000 square foot facility. So it's a massive facility. Imagine 2 or 3 super Walmarts full of manufacturing equipment, and you have, kids walking into this manufacturing floor, and while they were, using their coding in class, and then you take them to the manufacturing floor and you show them how that technician is using the same language that they used in class, move a robot that is making, a rear view mirror for a car, is pretty neat, And so tying those two things worked really well for us, and not just showing them in class and never actually seeing how it's utilized in the real world. That helped us tremendously. And of course, at the end of the day, a lot of those kids, the facts are in the Valley, a little bit over 50% have a high school diploma. And so the statistics state that a lot of those kids will be staying in the Rio Grande Valley. And so, to make sure that we make that connection, that was key to us. And that was something that now in my role at the bank in economic development, I get to actually travel throughout the state of Texas, anywhere we have a branch, and work with those communities and helping them put together a plan that works best for their community. So making sure that connection was there is, I thought, something that worked very well for us.
You bring up, I think you bring up a very critical point, which is there are a lot of students who are completing high school who don't have a family history of post-secondary education. It's not really part of their family dynamic. It's not something they talk about. It's not even something that they've planned for. One way we talk about this in workforce development and education is that these might be called underserved student population. And sometimes it's really just due to the history and circumstances of the family. You've touched on your interest in making sure that we serve all the students, in your case, for the Lower Rio Grande Valley. Are there some strategies we can use to ensure that these underserved student populations are able to access some of these exciting programs we're talking about?
Absolutely, Chairman. I'll tell you this. I know my bio was a little broad, but when I served as city manager, one of the things that I noticed quickly, because of my background in economic development, is that municipalities or cities, and every one of the cities that is represented today, many times is the largest employer in the community, whether it's a city, the county, or the school district, or Walmart or H-E-B are usually the largest employer in the community. And so one of the things that I quickly noticed as city manager is that we had generations working within our employment, or our city, if you will, the organization as a whole. If I may have somebody in public works, you had the dad and the grandfather, and then you have a third generation, which led me to believe that we played a role in the community to making sure that we trained those individuals, because if the grandfather didn't have the training, then the dad is likely not to have that same training, and so will the grandson. And so making sure that we aligned those things and provided the tools. And as city manager, I worked hand in hand with the Workforce Solutions to make sure that we came up with certifications for the Public Works Department, the folks in the water utilities, making sure that they had those programs in place, because I wanted to make sure that in the end, I had an educated workforce, a workforce with credentials. Because if I had a workforce with credentials, and that told employers that were looking in the area that we had that talent in the community in case they did come. And so that was one thing that we did, and I think it behooved every community to communicate and work with Workforce Solutions and the commission to make sure that they do start training individuals, because it is something that you do find in rural communities, small communities throughout the state of Texas, that we need to make sure those things are aligned.
Well, you make some great points. I grew up in two places, mostly San Benito, Texas, and Cameron County, and then moved to my dad's hometown of Itasca, Texas, which is up in Hill County, just north of Waco. Both communities, the school was the rallying point for the community. Whether you were a Greyhound in San Benito or a Wampus Cat in Itasca, it gave the community some identity and something to rally around. And I think what you're saying in terms of who employs people and who are the largest employer in the community, what I'm hearing you say is that employers take that responsibility very seriously. and definitely want to be part of that rallying point. That's exactly the kind of collaboration that we're talking about between communities and schools and the folks that live in that community. Alex, thank you so much for your contribution. I think we're putting together a really great roadmap here, not just a roadmap to get Jennifer out to Roscoe so she can check out what Andy's doing, but a roadmap that we can all use in the state to help us chart out a real career pathway for Texans. And I'm pretty excited about that, Alex. Thanks so much for your contributions to today, but for helping us with this larger project that we're working on. Robert, I think you had a question you wanted to ask. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. And again, I totally agree. I think when the chairman and I talked about this webinar series, one of the things we talked about was not reinventing the wheel. I think there's lots of amazing examples across the state of Texas, and we wanted to shine a spotlight on those for others to take a look at and see if they may be the right fit, in their communities and their regions. And again, this collaboration that we have going on, and Jennifer wanting to go out to West Texas to see things, firsthand. It's exactly what we wanted out of this. So very excited for that. Question here is for you, Andy. And we talked, we heard middle school a lot today in the conversation. We actually heard elementary school come up a little bit in the conversation. And so, we're seeing a push for earlier career readiness programs, specifically kind of in the middle school years. And so let me ask you, why is that important? Some people who may not be thinking about, these types of issues in middle school may wonder why we would even be talking about it that early. So why is it important that we start this conversation as early as middle school, and frankly, maybe even, in the latter years of elementary school?
Well, I think exposure and helping kids think through and think through what they want to do, what they want to, where their passion is, where their skills lie. In our and we push the college and career talk all the way down to pre-K. We've got college banners and those things around on all of our campuses. But for junior high, our students go through a career readiness, a career exploration class. They rotate through our different business opportunities, our different. So they're exposed to drones, they're exposed to digital media, they're exposed to welding, to the vet clinic, and all of those things, so that when they get to the end of their 7th grade year, we want them to choose a pathway. We want them to choose the pathway in 8th grade, so that they're ready to go, and they start taking those baseline basic classes there in 8th grade and their freshman year. And so one thing is exposure and just the thought process of what do I want to do and what am I interested in, where might my skills lie. But then prep for the classes. We're doing a lot in a short amount of time. And so with the caution of putting too much on too soon, too fast, trying to do that with some common sense, but still being able to create a program where kids can go through and matriculate with certifications and degrees.
You use the term exposure, and I think that's something I want to highlight. I'll tell you, in my career, growing up, I didn't really have a lot of exposure because back then it wasn't, really the topic du jour, if you will. Alex talked earlier about, just kind of making his way through high school, and I was very much in the same boat until I took an internship, and that internship happened in high school for me. Really kind of opened my eyes to the realities of, the workforce and what it's like to be expected at a job every day, and what it was like to be expected to, be present all day, do the job, do the work, and then obviously get a paycheck for it, which was a phenomenal feeling, as a high school student for me. And it really transformed my thinking and my pathway in my life. And so that exposure at an early age, I think is absolutely critical and spot on. And I sure wish I had it earlier in my life. But I think the benefit, again, as we talk about the state of Texas moving forward, staying the best state for business, staying on top, that's going to happen because of the effort of you and the rest of our presenters today and your team. So thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I know we've got a few minutes left, and I think we've got time for one more question, and I think you have it.
Well, and it just came in on the chat, so I was just reading it. is a questions for Eric. And here's the question. I'm going to read it how it came in on the chat. Does the IEC Electrical Apprenticeship Program have provisions for students to learn other industry certifications? The example they gave is solar PV through the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners.
Currently now, most of our curriculum is based on a commercial, residential, and industrial application. We do have some contractors that do seek out solar certifications, but as of right now, we do not have that as part of our 4-year curriculum. That is very specialized, and a lot of our students post-graduation, if they are working for a contractor that would prefer that certification, most of the contractors will seek that out directly with a certified program.
So it sounds like you definitely keep up with developments like this, and you
Yes.
talk about these in the context of your apprenticeship program. Your main goal, of course, is moving folks from apprentice license to journeyman's license. But it does sound like the community of contractors continues to talk with each other, and each individual contractor will help their employees get certifications as needed to do the jobs that they're doing.
Yes, sir, Chairman. So with our 130 contractors, obviously, we know that outside of the association, they are in competition with each other. But one of our main objectives here at the association is to create a networking and a bond of contractors to help one another out, in times of needs and in times of slow period. But yeah, our contractors are working with their electricians on additional certifications. And that could include OSHA, that could include solar, that could include other safety and manufacturer or tool certifications. And we are seeing a lot of that. We have one particular contractor whose philosophy is, in my slow period, instead of sending electricians home, which is very, very rare, I am actually putting them in additional courses that they can take to kind of keep up. And of course, in our industry, technology is forever changing when it comes to lighting controls and various electrical systems, products, and components. So these electricians do have to keep up with new technology, especially with automation, and power over Ethernet is a big topic, here in our industry, instead of just regular wiring methods, so our contractors are on top of it, and we are bringing manufacturers as well as industry leaders to some webinars, as well as in-person meetings to bring this new technology and information and updates to our contractors. As an association, we do send that information out to our members.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eric. I've had an opportunity to tour some of their facilities over there. Just a wonderful program. Like all of the speakers here on our webinar today, just top-notch program, great facilities, doing wonderful things here for the people of Texas, and especially keeping our Texas economy moving forward. Robert, I'm not showing any more questions in the queue. Let me turn it back over to you so we can close out what's been just an absolutely phenomenal meeting here today.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree completely. Again, the webinar series that we have been hosting is really highlighting exceptional and highly successful strategies that are already out there. It's exactly what we set out to do, is to highlight these things, not to reinvent the wheel, shed a spotlight on them, and encourage others to tune in and see if it may be a good fit for them. So I really, on behalf of the Texas Economic Development Corporation, once again, want to thank Chairman Daniel and his team for this ongoing series. I want to thank Andy. Thank you so much, sir, for what you're doing, what your team is doing out in West Texas. Alex, always great to be with you. As you heard in Alex's bio, he's a long-time involved supporter of the state of Texas. Really, really impressed what he's doing, especially now as a regent at TxEDC. Thank you, Alex. Great to be with us. Jennifer, thank you so much. Shedding some spotlight on what you're doing out there at Fort Bend. Really exciting times, growing times, right? So the need is in front of us now. So really exciting. And then Eric, same thing, 535 students you're keeping your hands on. Really impressive. It shows you that the pipeline is full for the future, which is, again, exactly what we want to hear. Thank you again. I've said before, economic development is a team sport, and it takes all of us playing our respective positions. And I think today you got a flavor of just how good the team is when it comes to workforce development moving forward. So thank you again. I do encourage you to join us for our next webinar. That's going to be on Wednesday, May 5th. Wednesday, May 5th. And it's going to be a conversation with our economic development organization partners. These are folks that are near and dear to my heart at TxEDC and to Chairman Daniels as well. Folks that are on the front lines. As Alex talked about earlier, that story of a project. These folks are really encountering that on a daily basis, selling their regions, marketing their regions. So it'll be a great change, if you will, in terms of the discussion we're going to have of those that are really trying to encourage people, businesses to come into their particular regions and why workforce development is so important in those conversations. To register, please feel free to visit our website at businessintexas.com. Again, businessintexas spelled out .com. And you'll find a sign up link right there under the How We Market Texas on our website. So thank you again to all of our presenters today. Thank you to Chairman Daniel. We really enjoyed the conversation and we look forward to seeing everybody on May 5th. Hope you have a great day. Thanks again.